the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time.
And pleasant good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being tuned in. I welcome you now to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Tonight, we are riddled with a litany of maritime matter topics. First of all, we're going to talk about the sinking of Trans Cargo 2 at Portsea Dock last week. And ladies and gentlemen, if you was to go to Portsea Dock and you would drive around over the past few years, years, you'd have seen on the very eastern end a huge, large ship. The name is Trans Cargo 2. And I can tell you that that ship have not moved for years. It haven't moved because it couldn't move, because it has so much deficiencies and defects. And who knows when last that ship was taken out of the water and dry docked. So what happens when a ship stays in the water and don't dry dock every 5 years, as required internationally, is they create barnacles, they start to get holes, and they leak. And sometimes you see those ships sitting at the dock for all those years. They got bilge pumps pumping them out, and they leave the bilge pumps on at all time. Sometimes they go put a spade pump them out, because they're always taking in water from the sea. The water pressure will find its way in if there's a slight problem, and water finds its way in. And unfortunately, the longer they sit there, the worse the hull becomes. And they will sink. Now we got one down, and this ain't the first time. Everybody knows that from time to time a ship sinks at Portsea Dock. And I can tell you, my dear listener, that when that ship sinks, that was sitting at that dock for years without moving. What nonsense is going on in our country? Why are we just sitting by and allowing ships to sit at Portsea Dock for years without moving? It's just slackness. And I say slackness because for 5 years I've served as the Deputy Port Controller. And I know that the requirement to be a port controller, deputy port controller, a member of the Port Authority, New Providence Port Authority board, a chairman of the board, deputy chairman of the board, a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Transport, the Minister of Transport, and the Prime Minister. And I say yes, and the Prime Minister. Everybody shares the responsibility in ensuring that our laws in this country are carried out. We have the Port Authority Act. It's quite explicit in saying that no vessel should be at that dock if it's not operational. And that dock is there. And you get mailboat after mailboat, and freight boat after freight boat. And you see tugs, fishing boats, everything piled up like dirt on that dock. And guess what? You think they're paying? I can guarantee you they're supposed to be paying according to that act. They don't pay. A lot of them get water and don't pay because of the level of slackness that has manifested at that Prince George dock due to just negligence and slackness. Who is responsible for this utter chaos? Why was this allowed to happen? What are the legal parameters surrounding this sort of thing? And again, it goes back to the Port Authority Act, the subsidiary legislation, which speaks to Porter's Key Dock regulations, rules governing Porter's Key Dock. What ships are allowed to come there, for how long, if a ship is coming in with cargo from the Family Islands and they want to land it, the next ship sitting to the dock that is not transferring cargo at the time is required to leave and let them get a dock, and then they could come back on the other side. All of this is legislated, people. This ain't something I just thrown out there to say, boy, if we do this, that'll be good. No! We obligated to do this. Well, not we, the people, but the people that we put in power. You know, a few years ago, tiny years, well, a little more than tiny, about 20, 25, well, let's say 30 years ago, we had one of my icons in maritime, Mr. Leon Flowers. Mr. Flowers was the port controller he worked at the port department for over 50 years, and most of the time he was actually the port controller. He took over from the white man, eh? And when Mr. Flowers was running that port, anytime you see him go on Porter's Key, everybody will know that Mr. Flowers is on Porter's Key Dock. Why? Because of the level of fear and respect. Because they knew that Mr. Leon Flowers is not going to have a ship sitting on that dock and ain't moving. No, that's a working dock. And when Mr. Flowers would walk around on Porter's Key Dock, boat captains and boat owners would be nervous because they don't want to get that message. Oh, Mr. Flowers, they come to his office and see him. Because they know they're going to get chewed and ring out, and they may even lose their registration. Because Mr. Flowers was taking charge of what goes on at Porter's Key Dock and Prince George Wharf and everywhere else. And the team of people that worked for him at Porter's Key Dock didn't want to get caught in Mr. Flowers' office. Because Mr. Flowers was a no-nonsense man that ensured that if your boat is sitting on that dock and ain't moving, you can move it or the government can move it. But then, you know, Transcargo, I don't blame the owner. I don't blame the captain. I don't blame anybody other than the people that are being paid to ensure that these type of things are not happening. And I speak about Mr. Flowers because Mr. Flowers was the port controller who did it the way it should be done when it comes to the port controller and dealing with these vessels at Porter's Key Dock. Did it by the book. Never scared. Everybody knew that if you tried that foolishness, Mr. Flowers will be dealing with you and you will get it right. And the port controller today, and I can call his name, is my good buddy. Very good friends. The port controller yesterday, my good buddy, very good friends. The port controller that took over for Mr. Flowers when I went there, Mr. Harvey Sweeten, I can call his name because he and I went there together. And what Mr. Flowers had in place, it wasn't difficult for us to maintain. But over the years, everybody started to do their own thing. When you give people leverage, they take the leverage and try to get more. I mean, may Mr. Flowers' soul rest in peace. Boy, but if only we could bring a Mr. Flowers back to run that port. Eh? And I speak of Mr. Flowers, he's only one man. But you know, we got a lot of vessels out there, other than the Transcargo, that are standing by to sink as well. When I was young, I used to gamble. I grew up in Apple Street, Roll Avenue. And we had this porch, a couple porch. Everybody porch used to be a little gambling porch, eh? Man, we playing for 25 cents a time. We used to play this game named 3 points. 3 points. Not 3 points. Three pairs. That's it. And you dealt 5 cards, obviously, but 5 cards you could only have 2 pairs. And then you start picking, and the first person to get 3 pairs win the pot. Everybody putting 25 cents a game. You win a pot. And if you could win a couple pots, you get, back then 25 cents was plenty money. So when you add up the 25 cents and the pot is be like $2-3 a time, man, you come out there loaded, you might get just like you've been awake if you could win. But I say that to say, when somebody in the game get 2 pairs, in other words, 1 card they pick, and if that make a pair, they win. They have to let everybody know. And you know what we used to call that? I put it. When you put it, that means you get 2 pairs and you're good to go. You're ready to win. And everybody needs to know you got 2 pairs because they start paying attention. Nobody wants you win. So I am saying all of this to say that Transcargo sinking is down on the bottom. And we don't know now. We know that's a huge ship. So it ain't going to be easy getting that up. Now who's going to pay the money to get that up? You can pay money to get it up. You can pay money to move it, eh? Put it someplace. Well, you really should be dry docking them. Or we need to find someplace where if a ship is finished, you're using it more. You can send it to the scrapyard. It should be someplace you could take a ship. And even if you gotta pay money, shipping is business. You gotta take care of your own ship. And all of these ships, and they got a lot of ships now at Porter's Key ported to sink. Why are they ported to sink? Because they ain't moving. And guess what? The authorities that be ain't put no pressure on them to move those ships. So what gonna happen now? We got a graveyard of ships sitting at Porter's Key, and all ain't sitting directly on the dock, because you got some boats at Porter's Key 3 and 4 deep. And that shouldn't even be happening, because Porter's Key dock is for mail boats. Porter's Key dock is first and foremost for mail boats. Now if you get a cargo ship that is operational, then of course you request permission with the port controller for a berthing space. And you don't want to start talking about berthing spaces, eh? Because anybody want to, they don't have that organized for berthing spaces. Anybody do what they want to. The fishing boats take over the south side. The whole south side is from east all the way to the middle, and then from the middle go back to west where they used to be, where they're supposed to be anyhow. Basically fishing boat. Captain Moxie and Captain C and them is hanging out. You go around there, all you're doing is seeing fishing boats. No more mail boats there. And they're being allowed to take it over. Because not a soul put their foot down. When you speak about the Port Authority Act, it gives not the port controller, the New Providence Port Authority Board, NPPA, has the obligation to ensure that Porter's Key Dock is used as a working dock for mail boats with mail bags. And then after that, cargo, domestic cargo ships. Room there for tugboats and that. And the tugboats, what all they're doing is wake on them and everything. They're not moving, they're not even operational. Why are they allowed to be and remain at Porter's Key? You know the answer. Just a bunch of slackness. I remember while I was serving as Deputy Port Controller, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram. You'd see Hubert Ingram on the weekend, and I'm calling him Hubert Ingram not with any disrespect, because there's a lot of respect for that man and all former Prime Ministers. He would drive around in an unmarked vehicle. You don't know when he coming. Bang! All he knows is he show up to Prince George Wharf. Bang! He show up to Porter's Key. And he checking things out. You know why? Because come Monday morning, somebody have to have some answers. And I can tell you that sometime the port controller, my good friend, one of my best friends, Harvey Sweden, would be away. Because I realized after a while he was getting these calls almost every week. And the call started coming to me when he isn't there. I Secretary, Prime Minister on the line. I said, what? Prime Minister on the line? Okay, so I answered, I ain't never scared. I answered the phone. Mr. Prime Minister, sir, how are you? Yeah, Mr. Bain. Yes, sir. What happened to the swim lines that used to be on the beach? I pass Goodman's Bay and there's no more swim line. Boy, my heart started beating. I said, boy, I know what's going on. What happened to swim line? I didn't even know we used to have to deal with swim line. I said, Mr. Prime Minister, I'll deal with that right away, sir. I'll check into that and get a message back to you right away. Well, of course, I a little scarish because I only a deputy port controller, the whole Prime Minister of the country, and everybody know Mr. Ingram was something like Mr. Flowers. He got a grip on things and he ain't letting go. So, what that cost me to do? That cost me to call. No, I didn't call. I hopped in my car and I drove down to Porter's Key because we was in charge of Porter's Key dock. The dock master at the time was Elvin Taylor. No, it was before Elvin came. Elvin was in charge of the tugboat then. It was Nigel Davis. So Nigel, I go and I talk to him. I say, Nigel, what's going on? Because we were very close. All of us were like one knitted, one family. Mr. Flowers was gone, but the port was still together, eh? I say, Nigel, what's going on? Hey, Mr. Bain. I say, are we responsible for swim lines? Oh, yeah, boy, we ain't put them out for them. I said, well, why haven't we put them out? And then he called in Ian Ford and Morley and Mr. Wesley Flower, the fellas them who was dealing with the swim line, who used to go out and deploy them. And we had a meeting. And I found that the reason why there was no swim line is because we didn't order the stainless steel wires and of course they got to make the buoys, the little concrete buoys to stand up and hold the wire in place, and so these things got to be rigged. But guess what? By the end of that week, the swim line of Goodman's Bay was looking pretty and smiling. But guess what else? If Mr. Ingram did not call me or the port controller wasn't there that Monday morning, it would have been months because I wouldn't even know we supposed to have swim line or the swim line wasn't there or we was responsible for it, right? Because I came from the Defense Force. I don't know that much, but know what all the people at Porters keep dealing with. I get to know the buoys and this and that. They deal with a lot of stuff. But what I'm saying to you, dear listener, when you get leadership coming at you, you will whip yourself in line. Leon Flowers didn't give you chance to be slack. Hubert Ingram didn't give you chance to be slack. I remember going to Ministry of Transport to meetings, and sometimes the minister would be delayed because he waited on a call from the Prime Minister. Boy, one time he invited me in the room, and I called him which minister because I work with like 4 of them, right? Called me in the room. I was sitting down, we talking about something with some of the ferry boat fellas. And the call came through. I watched this minister tremble while he holding the phone. Tremble. Why he tremble? He trembled because he know that Mr. Ingram would read through something and send it. And 2 weeks later he'll call and ask about it. So he trembled and trying to figure, Lord, which one of these things Mr. Ingram will ask about and I read it. And it got me to realize how powerful it is for a leader to follow up on things. And of course I started doing the same thing. I didn't tell you I was the best leader in the world, but I knew what was going on. Right? So all I am saying is today, why is Porter's Key so slack with regulating the dock space? Which boat can come in, which boat can't come in, not having any vessels sitting there for years and years and ain't operational, not having the fishing boats take charge of the south side of the dock because that's supposed to be for mail boat space as well. You got all the mail boats piled up on the north side. And I don't want to go into this clip I saw, but Porter's Key, where they have this marina coming from Bay Street. And it's like tightening the noose. Like the mail boats and them have difficulty now passing through. between that marina and Porter's Key, because the marina was allowed to come out so far that you got to almost squeeze your way through to get to the south side of Porter's Key now. And this ain't just happened there, listener. So the sender for that could make a statement and say this shouldn't be happening. This is going on. I watched the thing happen about 15, 20 years ago. This transcends all governments. So don't try and make it look like this just happened. This transcends all governments. That marina was there for a long time. And that bottleneck was there for a long time. And of course, if you don't pay no attention, next thing you know, they might close it out. Who knows? But who's watching these things? You got people responsible for making sure that these things are organized. Anyway, whew, I'm running a lot. But we got the Minister of Transport. If you read any of those acts, the Minister of Transport has ultimate responsibility for anything in maritime. That's the Port Department, the Maritime Authority. I think they're the only two, eh? But anything to do in maritime comes under the minister. And if things are going awry, I don't know if the ministers go on Porter's Key. But if the minister don't go on Porter's Key, I suggest the minister start going on Porter's Key. And minister, I ain't talking about who in the chair today. I'm talking about over the past 15, 20 years, dear listener. This ain't nothing new. Well, it ain't stretch all the way back to Mr. Flowers, because Mr. Flowers was in he would never used to play. But when are we going to get this right? Are we going to wait to see more vessels sink at Porter's Key? Are we going to just sit by, Mr. Minister, and I know you ain't no man, right? But I talking about this chair. I ain't talking about the person. Mr. Minister, Mr. Chairman of the Port Authority Board, Mr. Deputy Chairman of the Port Authority Board, Mr. Member of the Port Authority Board, Mr. Controller, Port Controller that is, Mr. Deputy Port Controller, oh, and that's my good boy, Mr. Assistant Port Controllers. What happening? Why Porter's Key running itself? Where are you? Mr. Prime Minister, my good friend from Royal Avenue, my Royal Avenue and partner. Put some foot on these people. Slackness can't done. We need to get this country in order, man. I am in maritime, and I can tell you, I ain't gonna leave maritime alone. If you're slack, I can call you slack. If you tighten up, I can tell people you tighten up. So give me something to say. Right now, you're slack. I think we better run the break. Mr. Producer, could we please take our voice break, suckers?
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting watching the ships roll in. Then I watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to Maritime Matters. We got some hot topics tonight. Obviously, we just finished one of the three main topics, but you know, we're a little hot there. But sometimes, you know, and you think about the way things are and think the way things could be. Well, when I think about it, you get a little hot under the collar. Sometimes you can express the things you feel like expressing, but you let them out anyhow, right? Our sponsors for tonight's show are 101 Pharmacy, as you heard on the commercial. You know, you want good treatment when you need medication, check out 101 Pharmacy. My good cousin Shantia McBride, she runs things up and down. She got 2 locations, East Street South, Charles Sanders Highway. Wonderful slew of staff operating those operations up and there. So when you go in there, you're going to be treated with royalty. We're also sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection. Yeah, that's us. Give you the full slate of ISPS maritime operations at any port facility in the country that receives international ships. We will give you your assessment done, you get your plan, you get your audit done annually, your training, 3 levels of training. We do everything under the ISPS code required to keep your facility up and in good stead with the international requirements, eh? That's Bahamas Maritime Connection. I am accompanied tonight by one of the greatest producers around this town. With me in studio tonight is the insatiable, the man of the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the man with all the power. He is fully capable, quite able. I bring to you, all the way from the great city of Nassau, Bahamas, the one and only Craig, the General Gibson. Yes! Oh, he ain't giving no salute today. I don't get on, but let's shy with that salute. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Maritime Matters. On this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 19:30 every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. Purpose of our show is to highlight persons that made significant contribution to the maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from a domestic perspective and from the international maritime feeds. Got a lot of them tonight. I know we ain't gonna get to half of them, but we should get to some, eh? Halfway through the show, we'll open the phone lines. As a matter of fact, we're halfway through now. So, Mr. Producer, could we open the phone lines? We'll open the phone lines now for those who want in on the discussion. Just call. The number to call is 326-8255. Again, that's 326-8255. Call in at any point. Bring up any maritime matter topic, or stick with what we're talking about tonight. You see the big boat sink at Porter's Key Dock? If you got something you want to say about that, let's discuss it. You got plenty more boats ported to sink. They standing by. Are we going to allow that to happen? Are we going to put enough pressure on our authorities? Are we going to get Porter's Key in order and stop? And look at all those containers. You can't hardly drive on the dock. Containers everywhere. Why? That is not a container depot. Every single operator, in my opinion, and the lawyer ain't say this now, but the lawyer tell them they can put it either, right? Every single operator should be able to have his container on his site over the hill. Why you gotta keep it on Porter's Key Dock? Is not for container storage, for parking. Anyway, we got a call on the line. Good night, calling on Maritime Matters. Thank you for calling. Try another line. Good night, calling on Maritime Matters. Thank you very much for calling.
Good evening, sir. How are you, Mr. Bain?
Top shape and getting better, my friend. How are you?
I am wonderful. First time caller to your show.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for calling, my friend.
No problem, sir. I wanted to just make a little point about that boat in the harbor, too, because I had some tourists on the boat one day, and I saw that was despicable, the way it looked out there.
Which one of those boats you mean?
The same one that sank, the big ugly one.
Oh, yeah. That's terrible, man. That should never even be sitting on the dock if it's not operational.
That's what I'm saying, and I'm glad
so many
you
of them.
that up, because they really need to tighten up there, like you said.
Yeah, they need to tighten up. The Port Control, the Port Authority Board, and Minister of Transport. They're the three. They need to tighten up on Porter's Key Dock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
I agree with you. I just wanted to get some of the 2 cents in.
Thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate your call, man.
This is Ice calling.
Hey, Ice, what's happening, my brother? Most famous, world renowned. Ice, the Ice. I call it the name. Ice, everybody know who Ice is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for calling, my friend.
Yeah, man. Thank you, too. All right. I have to listen to you. All right.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my dog. I play volleyball for years. Anybody know who Ice is? That's player the Bahamas probably ever had back in the day. Anyway, we got another caller. Caller, you're on Maritime Matters. Thank you so much for calling.
Hey, what's happening, Craig?
Glenn.
You put me on.
Yay! Hey, what you say, General? You call me Craig, I say Glenn.
I usually go through Craig first, but you pick it up right away. How you doing today?
I had a game today. I learn hot right now, so I pick it up quick. What's happening?
I hot too.
Yes,
because everything's supposed to be like, you know what I mean, cut and dry right now. You know what I mean? We got a new day government. You know what I mean? We gotta do new day things. You know what I mean? The dock out to Porter's Key need to be regulated. It needs someone to regulate it immediately.
Yeah, but you're talking over 20 years, and every 5 years we changed the government in the past 20 years, so that's 4 different administrations, my brother. This ain't no new day nothing.
Yes.
Let's go way back. Now the new day need to get it fixed now because we can't let it go on, eh?
Yes, listen.
Thank you very much.
You know, let me take you somewhere for a trip and bring you right back. I see in Alabama a thing where the dock wasn't regulated and the security guard tried to regulate it, and when I look, it was a big fight, white people against black people.
No, that had nothing to do with regulation. That was just some operations going on because Alabama think black people still slaves. That's all.
I know, but it was a boat that was.
It was going on a boat.
The ferry was supposed to park.
Yeah.
And the security guard moved the boat so that the ferry could park. You know what I mean? It's a regular thing. You know what I mean? The ferry is a regular thing. Yeah. And they thought, okay, bam, you know what I mean? This is the way we do things because you block that block.
Yeah, of
course. You know
what
I'm saying?
Yeah, but they had some attacking going on. The security came in after the big fight started, though.
No, they attack the security. They attack him. I got it. They attack him.
I argue with you on that. That ain't no maritime stuff in here. That's Alabama. I ain't fooling with them. They got to get their act together. But we got our own stuff going on here we got to take care of. And Porter's Key is right now one big mess.
Now, listen at me. The dock is small and there's more boats than ever that come into Nassau. There's more freight. There's a lot of things that need to take, that is taking place. You know, plus you got vendors selling this and selling that. The dock space need to be regulated.
I agree.
The containers that come in, they need to go to a place where they can unload them, and then people pick them up from by warehouses or stuff like that. We to the point right now where it's necessary, Mr. Ben.
It ain't only necessary. You can't just put a container on the dock without authorization, eh? And the port department and the government should not allow that dock to be used as container storage. It is too small for that, and it's too busy for that, and it's not. You get people coming out there to bring their freight, people coming out there to buy feed to go to the exchange, to buy hang out and get drinks. People coming out there for all kind of things. Go to fast ferry to catch the ferry. Go catch the. Hey, it's just too much going on for you to have that dock stock up with containers.
Let me ask you a question, Ben. Do we have a container port in Nassau? Why don't they drop the containers to the container port?
They can't keep, even the container port in Nassau have a hub, a glass freight terminal where they just carry the containers and they don't leave them to be stored on the dock because the dock is a wicked area. That Porter's Key dock should never have containers stored there. You have some containers that been there now for months and years.
Well, do they have a place on the dock where you can buy tickets? Or
toilets on the dock? Yes, the vessels, most of them have a little ticket office on the dock. I have no problem with the ticket office, right? Because when you come to do business with the boat on the dock, you go to the ticket office and you pay for your freight to go on the boat, or you pay to get your freight what came from the island, or whatever the case may be. But even that can be done over the hill. Because every boat owner should have a property over the hill where they do their transaction. I shouldn't have to drive out to Porter's Key to put something, to get something to go from here to Eleuthera. I should be able to drive to a facility over the hill like you do when you go to the States, you go to Tropical or any one of those. You can't go to the dock and carry nothing in the States. Tell me you come to bring something to the boat. No, you gotta go to their office and their warehouse and deal with that. Why we can't do that on the ski?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So, because it's so much businesses that need your stuff. And, take the stuff to your place and let the customs come to your place. Let whoever come to your place who pay freight. Should have a place designated for this kind of action.
Porter's Key is the domestic dock, customs involved in that. They ain't not coming in from outside the country. So they just need to have, when the ship, because most of the ship, come on now, the ships used to have cranes and they used to load things on the dock, take them off and put them on the boat. But cranes are now doing roll on, roll off. So they have containers that roll right off. And if that container could roll off and roll straight over the hill to the facility where it's supposed to go, where the ship owner has his warehouse, then it'll never have to be on the dock. But it's just that the government needs to put their foot down on these people and make them do these things.
Yeah, another thing, Ben, if a boat was scheduled to leave and couldn't leave because of certain things, they should move out of the spot and let somebody else get inside there that is doing business right there and now. You know what I mean? Because the space is so small.
But that's what the Port Authority Act say.
Then move out of the way and let the next boat come in.
Yeah, but that's what the Port Authority Act say. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But ain't nobody there's no enforcement.
So what we gotta do? What we gotta do to make this happen? Who else we gotta get in to make this happen now? You know what I mean? Because
you ain't gonna get nobody in to make it happen. It starts at the top. It starts with the Prime Minister, the Minister of Transport, the New Providence Port Authority Chairman, the New Providence Port Authority Deputy Chairman, the New Providence Port Authority 12 members, the Port Controller, the Deputy Port Controller, and the Assistant Port Controllers. These are the people who are supposed to make this happen and make sure it continues up. These are the people who are supposed to enforce the act that is called Port Authority Act.
So you think they're listening now?
I don't care if they're listening. The bottom line is...
No, you should care because we want to get a solution. You know what I mean?
My brother...
I think they're listening right now.
Brother, my job is to call it out. To these people. My job is to call it out, right? And I'm calling it out on air, on live radio. Anybody who want to call in could call in and we could talk about it. I am prepared. See, I know what the law say. I used to serve as Deputy Port Controller. I know what I had to do because I used to do this by the buck. But you got people serving right now as Port Authority board members, as Port Authority. I can tell you, in most cases, they don't even know what their responsibilities are based on the act. They don't know
because you needed to be corrected yesterday.
Yeah, but this ain't the only area in government that running slack like this, This just happens to be the one that I involved in, and I can keep pressure on it. Yeah, well, Big have to make that happen. Big can make it happen by talking about it like this. When they hear this, I hope they be a little embarrassed because they too slack, man.
No, don't be embarrassed. You'll be ready to make a move and make it happen with the Bahamian people because we deserve better.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you very much for your call. I got another call on the line. Let's see this other call.
Yeah. Listen up.
Okay, King Otter, take care. Caller, you on Maritime Matters Live. Hello.
Good night, Captain Ben.
Good night, my dear.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you loud and clear.
I'm clear. Okay, I had two comments that I wanted to make.
Yes.
Mailboat registration, they increased it by 1,400% from $496, depending on the length, to $8,000 annually. Now, the fine for not registering is $75. Now, I'd like to know what your comment is on that, because it doesn't make sense to put the registration up to $8,000 when the fine for not registering your boat. So you could get caught not registering your boat up to 50 times and not pay $8,000 in fine, because they have this thing now where you sign your little non-disclosure your form and you pay them the $75 straight away and you get to go about your business. Right? That's number one. And then number two, for those shipping containers, they charge a fee for storing them. So I think it's like minimum maybe $5 per container for storing them on Porter's Key Dock. But while they took the time to increase the fees legislatively, they didn't put that into any kind of legislation where, in my opinion, it's illegal for you to make a policy for that long to charge people $5 per container without legislating it. And, you know, for the $8,000 a year, what is the value for money that the ship owners are getting? Because we have to remember, the family islanders, that fee will be passed on to them. And, you know, what is the value that you're getting for the $8,000 for the increase of that much money? You don't have security. You don't have lights. You don't have cameras. You have vagrants interfering with your containers and so forth and so on. And they're interfering with the people, you know. So I'd like to know what the value is for money that you're getting for charging people it now for $8,000 a year.
Okay, let me. I want you to stay on the line. Let me just try to tackle this. Lord,
I can't. The phone is feeding back.
Okay, no problem. So
Okay.
what I can do is you asked two things. I can try to remember what the two of them was. I remember the first one was I come unprepared today. I ain't got my pen. I shouldn't tell the world that, but it is what it is. The first one, you can hang up and I'll go ahead and respond. Thank you. Yeah, I thank that lady for calling. That is one of my avid callers. She is quite equipped with information surrounding matters in maritime, because she is a certified maritime professional as well. So I know she is, and I appreciate her question. First question she asks is about the cost to register a vessel like the mailboat. $8,000 per year. I know they I can tell you they used to be must be about 80 or 100. Yeah, like you say, 8 times or 10 times as much as it used to be. I don't know what's the reason. I never inquired. I never really check into it. But in my opinion, anytime you can go up 800% on anything, that that needs some explaining. But in any case, what she's saying is, while it's $8,000 to register, it is also, if you don't register, the fine is only must be $75 or something like that. Now you can imagine, why would you want to register then if the fine is only $75 not to register? And that was a question. And I have an answer to that, because if I was still deputy port controller, my thing is, these vessels, just like the jet skis, they are controlled by that registration document. And if that expires, then every time they attempt to move that boat, they should be stopped. That boat should be detained, right? And you may say, oh, but you could put detention on, they still move the boat. The boat is supposed to be detained because it is breaking the law. The Port Authority have, when the Boat Registration Act say no vessel should ply for hire within the waters of the Bahamas unless and until it's registered under this act. So the fact that the registration expired, that means it's not registered. And it should not be allowed to operate. And every time it moves, you put them in court. Make them get a lawyer. They move, you record every single time. You don't give them permission to leave the port, because the harbor control is supposed to know, and they're supposed to get permission to leave the port, that these vessels cannot leave because they are not registered. They shouldn't be operating. And all of that comes under the Port Authority. The Port Authority Board, the Port Department. Okay? So there are ways to deal. See, if you don't have a license for your car, you could take the risk and put your car on the road. But police get roadblock, you can get pulled over and fined and all the rest of that. Right? And every time they see you, they can pull you over. And if you do too much time. Because what happens, my dear listener, is once you have been cited of violating the policy, where you operating your vessel without registration, you get the mail bag pulled from you. They take the mail bag from you. Because the government shouldn't be paying you for mail bag and you violating the government law. So it's critical that these vessels, mind you, the sad thing is there's not enough enforcement in this thing, eh? the enforcement is absent. Well, maybe not completely absent, but who goes so they're making sure these vessels don't move if they don't have registration? I challenge you to tell me who. So in my view, that ain't no big deal. Just, first of all, they wouldn't be eligible for registration the following year because they just go on amok, and you make them pay for the registration. The second question had to do with, I guess, the same 800% for registration. And again, I don't know what the rationale is. I'm sure the government had some rationale, and maybe I could find out. I'll try and find out why the cost gone so high, and maybe they did a feasibility comparing it with other nations in the area and see that we were still in. I remember the Port Authority Act was written in 1965, or even before that, sometime in the 60s. So what was $80 then is probably is $8,000 today if you look at how things going, right? But yeah, we got to look at it for what it is. But it's a business they run in. They also get government mail bag. But the ones who don't have government mail bags and still getting cargo ships to do runs, that's a business. Pay your business license and stuff like that and all the rest of that. And if they feel, they have a mailboat association, if they feel that the money is being charged is too high, then that mailboat association could do what companies normally do or what associations normally do and put pressure on the government to lower that price. And maybe they were involved in the discussion when they concluded on that. I don't know. And I ain't trying to, this show ain't about trying to figure out what's going down. We like to look at what's in writing and say, this is what it should be. That's what it should be. Now, our next hot topic would be the Prime Minister stating that the Defense Force officers would train Haitian police, not engage in conflicts. Should the Bahamas be sending our BDF troops in the political stabilization of Haiti? Should we, well, we all know that Kenya decided they're going to send, I think, 1,500 troops to try and assist with the stabilization of Haiti. We also know that in the mid-90s, the United Nations sent a peacekeeping force to Haiti to stabilize that region, to stabilize Haiti. Right? And back then, we had 2 handful of Defense Force personnel. A good, I think it was more than 150. Right? Because they were there for months. And they went there. And they assisted all the other countries. It wasn't just Defense Force going down there to fight or deal with the Haitians, This is all organized by the United Nations. This was all countries of the region. So we was only a percentage of the military force down there to kind of make sure stability comes in. And they were there for months. And as far as I know, not one Bahamian got even injured. So it's not like, in my opinion, it's not like how some people think. If we send Bahamians down there in that turmoil, they can kill up our fellas. Man, come on, please. How could you even think that small? Our people are not going down there with just the Defense Force going to Haiti to try and fight these fellas and take over nothing. The force that goes down there will be organized. And let me tell you something. The Haitian people that are on the ground in Haiti right now going through turmoil, you think they like that? They don't really want that, They got to do, that's a struggle of survival right now because the government have been toppled over and it's battle of the fittest right now. The only way you could bring that to normalcy is by sending in some international non-Haitian troops that has no stake in the business, no bone in the game. They just come to do a job, right? Because It's like our police. And you have a fight going on in the police reach. Ain't nobody trying to fight the police no more, you know. Because they know the police ain't there to be on nobody's side. The police there to break up the fight. So when those troops go to Haiti amidst 1,500 from Kenya, 2,000 from Jamaica, 1,000 from Trinidad, well, maybe not that much, right? But I'm just saying, it's going to be a group of us. Would this have been a problem if the Bahamas was sending troops to Jamaica to assist in stabilizing Jamaica if Jamaica got out of hand? Would this have been a problem if the Bahamas had sent 150 troops to Trinidad because the government of Trinidad was toppled over and they had riot in the streets and no normalcy and people could hardly leave their house, people getting raped, people getting kidnapped? What about Barbados? Trinidad, St. Lucia, Antigua? Would we not have done it for other Caribbean countries? So why shouldn't we do it for Haiti? Now you remember what happens in Haiti inversely affects us here in the Bahamas. You would tell me a team would come all the way from Kenya on the eastern side of Africa. This ain't Nigeria, you know, it's Kenya. This out there in the Indian Ocean. They are going to send troops to Haiti and they have no tie with Haiti. They don't speak French. Because they care. But we right here in the Bahamas, who are being impacted by what's going on in Haiti, because most of them trying to flee out of that turmoil to get to us just to stay alive, are saying that we can't assist in trying to bring normalcy and stability to Haiti? Do we have a heart? What are we talking about? Haiti are our regional partners. Yes, they're going through a lot of foolishness. Yes, they've been through a lot of things. Yes, they got shanty towns, and you know I have a problem with shanty towns. Yes, they have employment in the Bahamas, and the government is stamping it out. But what that have to do with the Bahamas trying to assist a neighborly country to become stable again? You all think our defense force fellas are that weak that they can't form a part of a contingent and assist with peacekeeping? We did it before. What's wrong with us? We don't know what's going on in the world. My dear listener, I ain't no big fan of the Haitians going all over the place or the Jamaicans going all over the place or this or that. But when you are in turmoil and you need help, history is going to reflect who was there for you. And any country in this region, because we don't know if we can need help someday. We don't know. I mean, what happened today don't have to be happening tomorrow. And I'm sure if Haiti is stable, they would come to assist in helping to stabilize our country or Jamaica or any other country in the region. I know some Haitians and they're good people. I don't care what nobody tell me. Okay, we got a call on the line before I run too hard again. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Thank you very much for calling.
Good night, Captain Ben. How are you?
Good night, my brother. I am in good shape, top shape, getting better all the time. How are you?
I am doing well. This is Brother Star calling you.
Hey, Brother Star.
Yes. I think one of the issues with the deployment of the troops is a lot of the humans don't know the history of the defense force in terms of training and what they would have done. Many persons don't even know that they did peacekeeping in Haiti from 1994 to 1996. It wasn't a few months. It was 2 years.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
To get the timing correct.
Thank you very much.
And a lot of people don't look at the defense force as a military. So they have no idea of the training, no idea of the capability. It isn't highlighted in the society. So a lot of people don't even look at the defense force as a military. So when they hear about deployment in these kind of situations, Bahamians out of naivety and lack of knowledge on what the Defense Force is really formed for, don't understand the road. Nor do they understand the international treaties that governments sign on to in terms of the UN, CARICOM. So they have to perform in certain roles when the region comes into conflict, whether it's a natural disaster, whether it's a military conflict. The military has to go. And I think once we educate the Bahamian people on that, we won't have much of an issue.
I agree. And now that you are such, not only a good friend of mine, but so knowledgeable on this situation, were you one of the peacekeepers to go to Haiti in 94, 96?
Yes, I would.
Okay, I really would, if we probably got to do a show sometime soon where you would come and just explain your experience, so people could not think, once you go down there, the Haitians can kill you.
So there were many others, because there were two sets of deployment. One was under CARICOM and the other one was under the United Nations. So the Bahamas is not new to these type of deployments in terms of the military.
Right.
And once Bahamians understand that the Defense Force is the military of the country, and the military, when you sign into the military, this is one of the things you sign on to do. And when governments go to these international forums and they sign these treaties, governments have responsibilities that are not just national, but international and also regional. And when you become a part of bodies like CARICOM, you have to fulfill your role. Because if the Bahamas, like you said earlier, gets into a situation or something happens, we would want to rely on international partners to come to our rescue as well.
Exactly. And that's why you ratify these things collectively. They say united you stand, divided you fall. Why would you want to be in the Caribbean and not a part of the CARICOM and all that when it comes to looking out for each other? It doesn't make sense.
I think it's just a matter of educating the Bahamian people so they can understand what's really happening, what are the rules, what are the things that government sign on to, what is the role of the military, what type of training does your military have.
Yeah, a lot of people,
because there's a lack of military equipment moving around our streets. There's a lack of public relations on behalf of the military in the Bahamas of what they really do. They lump everybody in one basket and they just look at the U.S. law enforcement. But there's a difference between your law enforcement agencies in your country and your military. And I think that has never been a part of the educational system in terms of showing the Bahamian people that there's a difference between law enforcement and military.
That's right.
And the Defense Force is your military arm.
And the capability.
And so they have a responsibility and they have a mandate, like I say, internationally and nationally, to carry out some mandate on the behalf of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Absolutely,
my friend. Thank you so much for calling in and sharing that information. And like I say, we're going to have to kick off a show with talking about that peacekeeping troop last time. I got two other callers on the line, so I want to just run to them. And continue to take care of yourself, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, too. Caller, you're on Maritime Matters. I apologize for holding you. You were holding so long, but you hear what was going on, I assume. Okay, that call is gone. Good night, caller. You're on Maritime Matters.
Good night, Captain Bain.
Good night, my friend.
I sent you a video some time ago in regard to some issues we have in a certain area that I live.
Right.
I live on the east. Someone lives on the west. The yard is open. Anytime Tom, Dick, Larry, and Barry want to launch a boat, they come to launch the boat there. They ride all up in my yard. What to do about that?
Yeah, I think we spoke about that after you sent me the video. And what I said to you, I think, is, your yard is only what's inside your wall. You cannot own that section between the street and as far as where the lampposts are. That is government. Roadside, whatnot. Although you may plant grass and do all the rest of that on the outside of your wall, it's hard to say somebody can't use it, because really that is not your property. That's the first thing. And I was saying, if you could put up some signs telling people, or some cones, they have some block cones, concrete cones, block with sharp, that you could put along the edge so that they wouldn't be able to drive onto your grass.
So the gate is my gate or the government gate?
No, your gate is part of your fence line or your wall.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm talking about...
And they try to come through the gate.
Oh, no. Now, if they're coming onto your property, then of course. Did you put up the signs, though?
Yes, sir.
And they still continue to do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sure you reported the matter to the police.
I need to do that.
Yeah, you need to do that, and you need to take footage of who does it. And once you can get that to the police, then, they can bring charges to these people.
Okay, thank you, Cap.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your call again, and we'll continue to keep in touch.
All right, sir.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, time rolling so fast. I don't know if I can take another break, but I have to say good night to my good Annie Mae. Annie Mae, what you saying? I hope you ain't drop sleep on me. I know you like listen to the show the next day, but you tell me you'll be listening, but you don't keep up all the time. Annie Mae is over 90, so how could she keep up like everybody else? Annie Mae, you doing a dandy job, man. But when you call me, you tell me everything what's going on in the show. I don't know how you do that. So I want to say good night to my good Annie Mae up there in Freeport, 91 and going strong. And of course to her daughters who continue to take extremely good care of her. I say good night and keep my auntie ticking, keep things rolling. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move to our second break. And when we return, we're going to finish on what we come to do. Carbon credits.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Bahamas is big thing, ladies and gentlemen. That's my boy Toledo. Telling you, bigging up the Bahamas. Bahamas is big thing. Why is Bahamas big thing? You know why? When I in here dancing, I can tell you, I having a ball in here. Bahamas is big thing because we have the largest seagrass meadows in the entire world. That's why we's big thing. One of the smallest countries, but the largest sea meadows. And why do we have the largest carbon sucking, what they call it, when they take it out there, seagrass meadows? Because we have the largest banks in the world. Why do you think they call the Bahamas shallow water country? We get more. Do you know that when the astronauts first went up in the space shuttle and they were sitting in the out into space, and they looked back at the big blue marble? They call the world the big blue marble, eh? They sitting up in there amongst the other planets, and they look back at the Earth. They use two entities, two countries, to mark which part of the world they're looking at. Because you got two countries that are opposite each other, that sticks out like a jewel when you look at the Earth from outer space. And what two countries were they? China, because of the Great Walls, once China is in their sight, they can see the Great Walls of China. And when they're not seeing China on the opposite side of the world, when China's on the opposite side of them where they can't see, they could see the beautiful waters of the Bahamas. So they would say, oh, it's daytime in the Bahamas, or it's nighttime in the Bahamas, or it's daytime in China. And they're the two countries that are opposite each other that they use to determine which part are they looking at. And you know why they could see the Bahamas more so than the whole America and Europe and all that? Because the Bahamas has these large banks. We call them the Great Bahama Bank and the Little Bahama Bank. And then we got the Columbus Bank. Then we got the Keysal Bank. We got banks. Boy, and we ain't know all the money was in them banks until now, eh? Those banks are where all the carbon sinks are. Those banks store carbon. And they store carbon. And so because they storing so much carbon, they shiny and glassy. And so when the space shuttle is out in space and the sunlight bounces up, all you could see is glow. Yeah, that's the Bahamas. See them banks? That's the Bahamas right there. As small as our country might be, they could tell the Bahamas. And I want you to know, dear listener, that those banks is there to bring us wealth. Because I always tell you, the late great Dr. Miles Monroe always say, the Bahamas is the place where God lives. And when Mr. Monroe used to be saying that, I used to say, boy, I know we pretty now. I know, but I didn't know we were so wealthy. I didn't realize this is where God would want to live if he was to live somewhere in the world, although we know he everywhere, right? Who wouldn't want to live in the Bahamas? But I didn't know we were so wealthy with carbon. And not that we have carbon, but we sequester carbon out of the environment by the big volumes. And I tell you, those sand marshes, those seagrass and mangroves, they pull out of the environment carbon to the beat of 35 to 1 compared to those big trees in the rainforests in Brazil, North America, wherever. Right? So they sequester the carbon so fast that they take it in 35 times faster than any tree. And when they take it in, what they do? They bring it and throw it in their roots. And from the roots, it goes into the seabed, underneath the seawater. Right? And it is stored there for millenniums, thousands of years. If it is undisturbed, just stays there. So because we are taking so much carbon out of the air, on an hourly basis, we're taking tons of carbon dioxide out there. Every day, every minute, right now. And we don't get a red cent for it, not one dime yet. Why? Aren't we being paid for that? We're not being paid for it, in my opinion, because we slunking. If this was the United States of America, or Britain, or France, or Spain, or any one of them big time countries, and they had all of this carbon being sequestered out of the environment and stored in the seabed by the thousands and thousands of what we call it, tons, they would have been getting their money a long time. And the thing that you get countries like Mexico, where companies are now going to offset their carbon by paying Mexico, buying credits from Mexico. Little countries like in the Central American region, I was reading that, where my boy Patrick tell it from, Lord, I can't remember. Belize, countries like Belize. You got countries like Apple going to Costa Rica. And they go on there to say, you all are going to have some carbon credits. We want to offset our carbon release by buying your carbon credits. Walmart, you know how much trucks Walmart got on the road emitting carbon every day? But let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. We got a company here called CEMEX, right? CEMEX stores a big volume of cement in Freeport Harbor. Do you know that cement emits some 28% of carbon into the environment worldwide, while all ships are just 3%, all planes are just 2.5%. So the ships and plane together, although you see them moving up with all them smokestacks, they don't emit as much carbon in the environment or the atmosphere as cement being used around the world. You see, cement happen to be carbon storage under the earth. That's what it really is. It's carbon. So when you're mixing that and they extracting that, carbon is being, that's like you breaking up some trees. Every tree has thought in that tree, because trees breathe in carbon dioxide, a lot of carbon dioxide. So when you chop down a tree, that going in the environment as carbon. Don't pull up the roots, because the roots of the tree have more carbon than the trunk and the branches. So we have a country that takes carbon out of the air, because we have a lot of seagrass, we have a lot of mangroves. And what we need to do as a country is we need to be able to measure how much of that carbon is being sequestered by way of our seagrass and by way of our mangroves and everything else we got pulling that out of the atmosphere. We know it's been stored for thousands of years, so we don't remember that. We know it's pulling it out. And they got monitors that you can use to determine these things. They're already using it in some parts up in Seattle and other places I've been reading. Now, when is the Bahamas? Mind you, I must give the government kudos for putting in place an act that addresses how are we going to be doing our collection for carbon credits. People coming here are governed by a certain act to do things a certain way. So we have the act in place. But when are we going to grab CEMEX and tell them, look, you want to offset some carbon? Come, let's do something in the Bahamas. We could go to Walmart. We could, the World Bank is going to be storing some money from all of the major countries toward paying countries like us who are sequestering all this carbon of the environment by the tons. Because you see, carbon is, I was telling you all last week, you get cheap carbon and you got expensive carbon, or should I say sequestering, right? We have the expensive carbon sequestering. We have the ones that take carbon out of the environment 35 to 40 times faster than the ones on land. So we're talking big money, and we got the biggest seagrass meadows in the world. We got 62%, sorry, of seagrass and mangroves in the entire Caribbean. One country, one little Bahamas, have more than the whole Caribbean put together. Isn't that amazing? You can imagine if this was a country like Barbados with the aggression of Prime Minister Mia Mottley. You think they wouldn't have been getting paid something from somebody already? Let's get some tools in here so that we can start measuring how much carbon is being sequestered out of the environment into our seabeds, out of the environment into our mangroves. We need to do that pronto, because until we do that, we can't measure how much carbon credits we're selling. You see, each 1,000 tons is a credit. So to measure, once you know how much tons are being sequestered on an hourly basis in a particular area, and you could do it by the they call them hectares, but we call them what? Acres. You do it by the acre. You need to map out, of course, your banks. Now we got more banks than land in the Bahamas. Now you know we get plenty of islands, but our banks are like 10 times more than all the islands put together. So we got a whole vast span of carbon sink, as my boy King Arthur to say. We are the carbon sink big timers. Like Stelito say, Bahamas is big thing when it comes to carbon sinks. When are we going to get moving so that this year don't run out and we're not being paid? Because until we could bring those measuring monitors and tools and set up everything, because we had a university came down already, and I saw a video on YouTube where they actually digging into the seabed to measure the amount of carbon over the past so many years, and they measure today and measure tomorrow, so they have an idea already how much tons of carbon is being sequestered on an ongoing basis into our seagrass meadows, into our mangroves. Right? They already have an idea, and based on what they did, they told us Bahamas is big thing, because the Bahamas is set to receive 156 billion with a B dollars a year, based on the amount of carbon our carbon sinks are sucking out of the environment. And everybody can need carbon credits. The ships, the airplanes, all the vehicles, and well, I mean, most of them going to electric, right? By 2030, we'll have like half and half electric and fossil fuel. By 2040, you probably ain't have no more combustion engines on the road, right? Because, and then fuel can get cheaper, but you have to pay. Every time you put carbon in there, you got to offset that by paying somebody to say, who have carbon credits, to say, I am buying carbon credits from so-and-so to replace the carbon I put in there. So everything got to balance out. And then they talk about zero emissions by 2050. But in our news last week, we had where the company that came here to explore for oil, and I don't even need to remember the name. Maybe only knows the company came to explore for oil, and they did the first set of drilling and said they ain't find nothing. So they want to share our carbon credit benefits, right? What they want to do is say, look, if we was to explore for more oil, every time we dig into the seabed, we are causing carbon to escape and get in the environment. So what we want the Bahamas to do is offset that by saying we sequestering in our carbon sink to pay for that carbon that the oil exploring is putting in the environment. Why are we allowing them to continue oil exploration? I understand we didn't sign for the second and third one to happen yet, eh? Or even if we did, man, let's pay them off and tell them we don't want them touching our seabed. Why would you touch our carbon sink when we could be making billions? How much money do you think we can make off oil even if they find oil? And by 2050 all the oil will be finished with. The answer is no. We, the Bahamian people, I can't speak for everybody, but as one, do not wish to share carbon credit benefits with no oil explorer. Fossil fuel is on the way out, and we know it. So, oil company, you should be responsible for your own carbon emission. If you could dig for oil because you got a contract, when you, I'm putting emissions go in there, you offset it by paying yourself. Don't try to partner with us to say you can use our credits for that. No, sir. We are not for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Maritime Matters. Again, our phone numbers 325, is it 325, 328, 326, 8255. That's what I think it is. Let me see. Our numbers to call 326 8255. Boy, I know I'm getting cold, because I know I'm getting old. Again, the number to call if you want in on this discussion is 326 8255. We're nearing the end of our show. We're only 5 minutes in. And just to reiterate what we discussed today. First of all, we talked about the sinking of the Transcargo 2 at Porter's Dock last week. The fact that the Transcargo 2 sank after sitting on the dock for years. Obviously not dry docking, obviously not taking care of the bottom, and obviously not moving because they couldn't run. And then we have other vessels, well, maybe not as big as them, but they're big enough. We don't want no vessel out there that ain't operational. Mr. Government, let's make sure no vessel is at Porter's Key unless they in and out. Like my boy Jensen to say when he go to do little construction work on them house. In and out. So you can't be coming in here and sitting down hanging up because you can't get paid. So you gotta be in and out. Or you will have to find some place to put your, and all them tugboats and other boats, I see them waking on all day, every day, they don't ever move. Why are they at Porter's Key? In and out place. Go find somewhere to do your business when it comes to not doing no trade. And first of all, tugboats don't carry cargo nowhere, so they shouldn't be the Porter's Key. That's my view. I ain't changing that. So we talked about the sinking of the Transcargo 2 last week. We talked a bit, and we learned a lot about if the government was to actually send, or should the government send, the 150 troops to join in with the Kenyans. 1,500. We only got 10% of what they bring in. And they on the next side of the world. No direct links with Haiti. And they will come here to help stabilize Haiti. But we get some Bahamians out there. And I know all of y'all was hearing them. I was hearing them. And I don't say nothing, because I ain't getting in their business. But they don't understand that we are here to take care of one another in times, especially in times of disaster. That's when we need to take care of one another. So, we had some callers, and I thank you for calling to, clarify some of what is to be expected if our troops do go to Haiti. The fact that we already had in 1994 through 1996, for a 2-year span, we had peacekeepers from the Bahamas joining up with the other CARICOM countries in the United Nations to provide peacekeeping duties in Haiti, and not one person got hurt. Not one person got killed. Not one person, I think, was even attacked by a local Haitian. So what are we scared about? This is what countries do when you have unrest in other countries. If you want a system, you go in and stabilize things. Because you can't expect them to stabilize themselves. You go in and you stabilize things. Okay, I hear you. And then we talk about carbon credits. Of course, the Bahamas set, they say 156 billion. Another entity was saying 50 billion prior to that. And I guess if you bring in another entity and you have some real professionals to really check it out, we might end up at 300 billion, who knows? But I know one thing. Bahamas is big thing. Thank you, Salido. You know what time it is. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to close out. I say to you, thank you very much for listening. We're going to be back next week, Tuesday night, with another line and litany of what's going on in maritime, in the Bahamas and internationally. mainly internationally, right? Because we got plenty feeds I didn't even bother to get to because I know we wouldn't have time, right? So as always, I say to you, good night, and Maritime Matters out.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching